Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. It is time to pick my own brain. I have decided to be better at sharing all my experience with you. I have strong guests dropping by the show every week, but the truth is that I have a lot of knowledge built up over my long career that a lot of you can benefit from. And this is where this all started, this podcast, wanting to share knowledge and experience to the benefit of all. So, everybody in the funding area is looking for something. Partners, proposals, information, support, coordinators, and so on. I will record some solo episodes with focus on how to find things. In this first recording, I zoom in on how to find the coordinator for your proposal and project. I simply take you through the steps that I am doing myself to go from identifying first projects, then the coordinators of these projects, and then how to reach out to these persons, and finally how to handle the intelligence data that you gather. Hopefully very useful for many of you out there. Please enjoy. The Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Today I'm going to do a solo episode, and that's because, life as an independent podcaster, it's challenging. And why is it challenging? I would say one of the most challenging things is to get to have the flow of guests coming in, because people postpone. Because it's just like this. They have more important things to do, my guests, than being a guest in my show. And that's how it is. That's how it is to be an independent podcaster. So it's not a complaint towards my dear guests. I appreciate a lot everybody who's joining. But I realize I need to develop some content these days to keep the flow secure of episodes. And I also realized that I have a lot of knowledge myself, that that's also a box that I should open up for once in a while. I do release that, of course, when I have guests, when I have exchanges or discussions or whatever on the topics that I'm discussing in the episodes. But sometimes there might be a lot of information here in my head, in my experience, that can be useful for some of you guys out there, also because it's something that I've been doing a lot over the years, working with EU funding. So I decided to try to fit in my own schedule, developing some solo episodes on where I pick my own brain for you to get some added value, hopefully, out there. And today, this recording is going to be about how to find a coordinator, the coordinator for your project or proposal. And the motivation for this, well, maybe first a short introduction to myself, because I don't do that a lot. But I have been working with EU R&D funding since 2008, and that I have been doing as a government representative for the Danish government, as an NCP and program committee member. I have been a representative of the Danish offshore renewable sector, so primarily wind energy, but also ocean energy. That I was for 4 to 5 years. Then I've been a grants consultant, private grants consultant, for fee, doing proposals, working for clients. And then I've been working for regional office, Danish regional office in Brussels. And now I am the networking manager of an industry association in Brussels, a European industry association for hydrogen, called Hydrogen Europe. All this means that I have done so many things within EU R&D funding support, both facilitating towards funding as a civil servant, public initiatives, and as and on the hardcore side of doing it for clients, writing proposals for fee on the tougher side to within this area. There are of course some areas I have not been working for the Commission, so being on the funding source, funding administrator side, that I haven't done yet, which I would say that's the probably the main experience I don't have. So no, that's that.
Hello, I'm Chiara Ligori, and I am so happy that I've joined this networking event. I invite you all to listen to the Grand podcast.
And within all this experience, of course, I have learned a lot and experienced a lot about how to do things and how not to do things. And one of the things that I know is a tough issue for anybody writing a proposal and putting together the consortium group is the coordinator part. So especially in the early phase, if you want to, there's a call and you want to approach it, but you cannot do that yourself. It's very common that you have you want to approach a call, but you cannot lift the coordinating role. Either proposal coordination, writing the whole logistics and writing part of preparing the proposal, but indeed also for taking the coordinator role in the project when that is being lifted. And it is something that I realize also in the role that I have now. I recently started this position in February, and my key role is to support Hydrogen Europe corporate members approaching funding. And one of these issues that I stumbled into again that reminded me of early in my career is how important it is to have the coordinator or know where to go to find a coordinator, and how important it is or how vital it is for the survival of a proposal or early proposal idea that you find that coordinator that wants to be spearheading it. Because if you don't, it falls, or there's a very big chance it falls if everybody's still sitting and looking at each other 2 weeks before submission. Let's just start here with setting the scene. So here are a couple of normal scenarios that you have in the beginning of a proposal phase that you could be likely standing. So one of the scenarios is that you know that you want to move for funding, but you haven't got any contacts yet, but you know that you need a coordinator. A second likely scenario is that you are maybe involved in an involved discussion with other partners about approaching a specific call, but you have not put pen to paper yet. And then third likely scenario is that you have maybe established a full consortium and you have started the writing, but you get more and more desperate to get a coordinator on board or talking one of the partners into being that. So what kind of organizations are you? So most organizations that are in this scenario and pushing things forward, that's universities or RTOs. It's so often that they are wanting to approach a call, but it's also often that they say we cannot lift this role because they're aware of the heaviness of lifting it. You're a company. If you are a company, you are much more likely than a university or a private research organization to say, this is not for us. If you are an SME, it's even less likely that you are likely to pick this up. And then you have the NGOs or municipalities, public organizations. Here in setting the scene, this is what you're looking at. So you have a consortium consisting of these kind of organizations. And let's just assume that the three scenarios that I listed, you're early in knowing you want to go for a call, but you don't know where to go yet. Or you are involved in discussions, but you haven't started writing, or you are already writing, you have the consortium and can't find. In any of these scenarios, you need to calmly sit down and say, okay, what can we do? What can I do with this? What channels, what tools do I have to identify someone who can lift this? And that's the next section. So let's move into this. So here, this section is just going to be a short list of the things that you can do before I will dig into them. in more details. So the idea, the concept of this episode is first, what can you do? Then how do you identify the projects? How do you identify the contacts? And how do you get in contact then? And then how to deal with your own data in the end. So now let's first have a short block here where we look at what you can actually do. What do you have in your hand? Because everything around this is tricky, because you need to find and identify the right person. And that's not so easy, and I'll get back to that later. Why not? What it looks like when you start to look. And even if you do find them, they don't always reply. But let's just have a look at what you can do. So in this episode, I'm going to focus on identifying coordinators that want to coordinate your proposal and project. And that means where you go places to find an experienced coordinator. Having a fresh coordinator, I will shortly give you a sum up, but that's not the real purpose of this episode. This is about identifying a coordinator that using different tools to identify who can join you to do this work for you. So with experienced coordinators, what can you do? So you have the project databases, and that's mainly Cordis. You might have other project databases out there. You might have Circular Biobase Europe. I think they have one. You also have the Commission. Commission have other databases too. And I will try to list them in the episode notes. So if you go to the episode notes, click and you'll find the episode side of this episode. I will try to find different databases, but the main one you want to look at, that's Cordis. That's one thing. That's one thing you do. So then it's a matter of contacting people. So if you do have a certain network, and not even network, also cold contact. So if you start to, if you work in an organization, for instance, where they know people in other organizations that have done this before, maybe also so try to contact people. You need to reach out and use the resources that you have around you. So new contacts, contacting people. Yeah, and then you have, you can use old contacts. I use that a lot myself, using old networks and old contacts that you've been in contact with. It might even be a long time ago, 8-10 years that I reach out to people, but it's a tool that I use. It's a resource that I'm using. And then I've started using LinkedIn over the last years, because you do have there within this world, most people are on LinkedIn, and also within this world, most people are somehow using it. I'll get back to the details later on that, because not everybody is responding very often in there, but most have a profile, so you will be able to identify a lot in there also. So what do I do? So I use everything that I just mentioned. The project database, I reach out to people, I use old contacts, and I use LinkedIn. And then I use Google. Because it's Google is a friend. And then I also started to use ChatGPT, but that's not always so good when it comes to direct context that you need to find. But it can be a good facilitator to identify different things, and I'll also get back to that. Now, I mentioned that I'm only talking about here in this episode about experience, how to identify an organization that wants to be a coordinator for a project, and that's you try to find who have been doing this before. Now, there is also the option of having a fresh coordinator, someone who has not done it before. It's a different ball game. It's different corners. This is not a matter of identifying things. This is a matter of talking people into things and helping them. Now, just to give you a short idea, if you want to go that way, then it's, of course, in the consortium that you have. Or if you invite new ones in, that you ask them if they want to be a coordinator. Often the reply is no. And then I have been successful myself a couple of times to help them understand that it might not be so bad. So you sort of put the good things about being a coordinator. You're in contact with everybody. You get a full overview of this project. You get invaluable context that you can move on with afterwards. You will often be, more often than the others, being invited to projects afterwards and so on. So there's a lot of added value with this. And this, this is a matter of explaining people, and so they talking them into it. Yeah? That it's, of course, you have the good things, and then also what helps sometimes talking them into it is that you can divide the role of administrative coordinator and technical coordinator, which often helps with, they say, but we are technical here, or we can take the administrative part, but this technical stuff that we don't feel comfortable with, that has solved it many times for me. And here also it's important to say that when you explain them, be honest about the task, that it's resource intensive at times, and that it does have responsibilities and so on. But just be honest and transparent about the role. But also in this respect, make sure that they understand that there's lots of help and support to get. So you have the NCPs in each country; they are supporting coordinators on how to do and how not to do and so on. But also good advice is that try to identify former coordinators in your network, if you can. Not the ones you couldn't get into your project, so to say, but try to identify people that have done this before that you can refer them to, so they can share experiences. It might be a little tricky, but in principle, if you can carve that out for them, so they get a better idea of how to and more calm stomach around this. And finally, of course, they can always listen to the grant. I have got a lot of episodes on coordinating, but it's not direct support naturally. No, let's move into next section. Move into here now. We're going to dig into. So that's the first coordinator. Put that apart. Duck might make a specific episode concerning that at another time. Now let's move into identify the projects and digging into how I actually do.
My name is Denitsa Nikolova, and I sincerely recommend tuning in every week.
The next section I have here, that is how to identify the projects, because I've given you just sort of overall terms of which tools you have in your toolbox here, project database, and there you can find projects. But I want actually to share a little bit more of how I do, because this is also something that I do in my current job. So I want to share a little bit more detail. So this is just giving you a little bit more depth in how you can solve this. So as mentioned before, of course, you need to find the person, the actual contact, and not the organization, not the department. Or you need to find a person. And my key tool is Cordis. This is where to identify the project. This is where I go, because you can. This is the official. They have everything in Cordis. The Commission has gathered everything, and the database is becoming better and better as the years have passed. So that is the golden standard. But you need to narrow in on the projects within the area that you work with, and here, well, just want to give you an idea of what I do. So how do I do when I need to narrow in? So first, I use simple keywords, and what I do is, and what I've started to do, I get ChatGPT to analyze the call text that I'm working with to give me some keywords. It's a very good tip. So, of course, you can analyze the text yourself if you know a lot about it. But if you want a quick fix on giving you keywords, then use ChatGPT for that. And then I put it into the Cordis, and then I scroll through the projects. And sometimes you have 2 projects, and sometimes you have 400. It's very different. Of course, if you have 2, then it might be too little if it's not exactly what you were looking for. Or if you have 400 or 200, then you need to refine your search. I maybe add an extra key term, because it's more often that you get a long list than a short one. But there's nothing else. That's actually really nothing. You can add a search term. It might still be a lot. So for me, often there's actually nothing else to do than to dig in and start to invest the time in looking through what seems most appropriate, because you can see when you get the search results, you can get an idea of what the projects they have been working with. So it's simply, you cannot. It doesn't have to take so long. If everything can be long if you're busy, but for me, normally I can, if I take a working day, some hours where I dig, then I normally find what I need to find something that I can use. and something that's appropriate. You will also identify old call topics of relevance for your topic. This is something. So not only so I use the keywords for general search, but I always, so when I get this search out, often the flow is like this. I use the keywords, I get the flow of projects that has been funded, and then often you can see a pattern. Click into these projects, and under each project site there is a reference to the specific call topic that the project was funded under, and that's your lead. So you go to that, and sometimes you will have more projects funded under the same call text, 2, sometimes 3, mostly 1, 2, or 3, but mostly 1 or 2. But if you have more, that's your you need critical mass, because you need to find as many possible persons as possible. That's your target. You need to find out who can lift this task and who would be likely to say yes. So here, see through this digging down the rabbit hole, getting to the call, and you get more and more. What happens is that you map. You map. I put things often into my own Excel sheet. So you start to map where do I have projects that has been funded under specific goals, and start to know, okay, there and there and there. And when you have that in this intelligence work here, you will slowly start to match which partners are often involved in projects related to your field or what you're searching for. And here, not only that, but you'll also find out who slowly you will. It's almost always the case when I sit and do this, that I see, but this one, they were also in this project and this project and this project. And that's your golden, that's your golden lead if you find these connections in this work that you do, because these guys are always involved, or very, very often involved in EU projects on this specific topic. So if you reach out to them, I can tell you, when I do this, and I do this a lot at my work, 75% chance, I would say, or even higher, that when I find these leads, they are also involved in something with the call topic that is coming up. It's almost always the case. And the group, sometimes you find groups of partners that have been doing the same for 10 years or 8 years in 3 consecutive projects, following a line of developing within the same corner. And there, of course, it can be difficult to get into the consortium, but if you manage to squeeze your butt in there by being an added value to the core group they have, then you're in a good spot, because they know exactly how to write proposal towards this project. And you might not even have to find a coordinator. You might be in such a place where be a competing consortium. It's always like this. But if you want to find, and that's also the thing, right? Now I stepped into that. So when you look for your coordinator, you'll also find out that the good ones, they're already writing a proposal with their consortium. And if you find the one, it can be a disappointing enlightenment when you find out that there is a group of partners within this call area that has been getting the funding for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and they don't, they have established their consortium, so that this is a flagship consortium, as I call it. This is one of the consortiums that are very, very likely to get funded. Then you need to stand up to that, of course. Now, you won't be able to get the coordinator from that project naturally, but that is also not what I'm helping you with here. So you will need to, of course, stand up to that and define your own consortium and find your own. So you'll just need to continue in your mapping of projects to former projects, or who could possibly be there. So what I recommend you to do in all this, because when you have mapped all this, there will be something in the category I just mentioned, and then there will be others in the category of not involved yet, or also depends on what time you reach out. If you are early, then you might have a good chance, a much better chance that someone will help you and join you and say, yeah, we can take this role. If you're late, then it's a little bit more difficult. But all in all, when you have mapped the most likely projects that will have partners that will also move into the code that you are looking for, then you are getting much more solid here. So the tool you need to use practically here, you need to, as I mentioned, copy paste things to an Excel sheet. Now, I have myself tried to extract Excel data from Codis, which you can do, but I haven't managed to work it out yet. Maybe I'm not intelligent enough, but it doesn't work for you. Anyway, so I do it the old school way. I simply copy paste the text from the site, put it into Microsoft Notes, Notepad, to get rid of all codes, and then I put it into the Excel spreadsheet. You can do whatever you want. The most important thing is that, that's the recommendation from here, that you get the information into your own Excel tool, so you can sort things and you can delete, put color codes on how you're moving forward when you need to get finding the persons. And that's the next section that we're moving into now. That's to identify the contact. Talked a little bit about it, the different tools that you have, but now I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I do. So you have the basis information of the relevant project. Let's just say that you mapped fine, that you have a list of a good handful of list of 5 or 10 projects, maybe even more. And the next step you need is to find the person, naturally. And here you have some options. So you have the project websites, as mentioned, you have Google, and you have LinkedIn. So how do I do? Well, I first check the project website, and but it's not often that you have the contacts listed there. And often there might be GDPR issues, maybe, I don't know. But I always check the site, because you never know. It's the most likely, it's the first place, obvious place to start. You will often find on project sites, you'll find an online contact form. But honestly, I don't use them. I'm sorry to say, for any of you out there that design these project websites and put a contact form, I never use them, because I've tried to, but it was like into the void. Nothing happened. So that's from experience. It's rare that anyone replies to the request. So remember, we need to have an actual person here. We need to find the person, and sending an email, it's a little bit equal to sending to an info@gmail.com email. You need the person. That's what you need to find. It's I've been sending, I cannot put a amount of a figure on how many times, how many emails I've been sending to these into the blue emails over the years, when nothing happens. So that's out of experience. Now, the second step I use, that's Googling the project and the coordinator. And here, you sometimes log it that the person contact data are available in some project activity connection. Anyways, you will always be able to find a phone number for the organization, but that is not always that helpful, especially if it's large organizations. You can run into difficulties actually getting access to the person that you need to, because you get into too many gatekeepers, so to say. So again, this is out of my experience. Sometimes you're lucky, especially if it's smaller organizations. It's easier with a flatter hierarchy. It's easier to get to the persons that you need to check, that you need to get involved with. But as also mentioned earlier, you might be able to find information of the person elsewhere when you look around, when you make your intelligence. My third step is LinkedIn. As mentioned, projects, they always have a LinkedIn account. Almost always. So you will almost always be able to identify who's the actual contact person, and who's so the person is who's actually coordinating the project. So that's sort of the steps to identify the actual contact. That's what I do. Sometimes it can be a daunting task. Sometimes it takes a long time to dig the person out. It's because it's finding personal data, especially after GDPR has been put into place. It can be a long struggle. I like to have a phone number. I hate to have an email only. or the entry number to a reception in an organization. It is the best thing I can have. That's a phone number that I call and a person pick up the phone. But it's getting more and more difficult because fewer and fewer people use their phone as they were meant to when they were invented. And they don't pick up the phone if they don't know the number that's calling them. That's very, very common these days, also professionally. So then you can put a voice message, but still, but the phone number is still my preferred golden standard, so to say, to get in contact with the person that I need to talk to, because I would much rather need to explain on phone than writing an email. But that is, of course, also what we're going to have a look at in the next corner here. What do you do with the person when you have found the contact? So that's the next block. Getting in contact. So this is the hard work. So after 16 years, I'm still sometimes despairing, but let's have a look at how I approach this. So how do I do? It depends, of course, on the contact data you have been able to collect. So let's just start with what you need to do before you reach out. So you need to prepare yourself properly. You need to be able to explain or write short and concise what you want and the added value of starting a dialogue with you. So you need to prepare yourself. Everything, everything in this world. It's good preparation, then you're almost over the goal line before you start. If you prepare yourself properly, understand the organization you approach, and understand how to properly explain what is it that you need. I would like you to be coordinator of our project. Explain in a paragraph what is the project content. If you don't want to share sensitive information about the project, which is normal, then in broader terms, we are approaching this. You can simply just write, we are approaching this call. We have core technologies in this corner of how to approach it. We have a consortium of, 7 or 10 partners already, or we are a core group of 3, and we're looking for a coordinator to move on and get more solid on the consortium. We can see, you can also relieve that you have done some intelligence. I can see that they've been doing these things before, that they seem to have a good... Two hands in the back always helps. It always helps with people being kind. If you say, I've heard very good things about how you coordinate this and this project, the rumor is good around, I give... So yes, this is the write short and concise what you want. Prepare yourself properly. Okay, so this is your preparation. Now, as mentioned, the best thing for me, the best is a phone number. So call. Cross fingers they pick up. I prefer not to leave a message because I want them on the phone before they know what I want. Because if they know, often they shy away from ever picking up the phone when you call. So you can say, but it doesn't matter anyways. If they don't want anyways, then why would you not let them know what you want? It's just there's a matter of psychology here. I prefer to take this conversation before they can check with others, and then, because if you have your foot in the door, if you have a good conversation, foot in the door, and you made a good impression, even if they're involved in something else, there might be a better chance, because this is human psychology. There might be a better chance they say, they actually sound like they know what they're talking about, and it's a nice approach, and that's this corner we need to solve, and so on. So it's might be a good way for us to step into this here and coordinate. So that's So this is a Fingerspitzgefühl, as you say in German. This is in the fingertips that you need to. Some of you might prefer to be totally transparent in a like sending an email before you call, whatever. But yeah, so that's of course up to yourself. And now here, so you can of course call the organization main number if you don't have the direct number, and then try to be connected to the person. This most often works to be connected to the right person if you've managed to get to the department. This is often the R&D department or development department. If it's a research organization, of course, it's the research team lead. They might even have an EU project lead there. But that's the corner you need for, and then you're more likely to be directed to the right place. That was the phone number. Email, also good, but you will realize that in this process, you'll send a lot of emails. But it is the most successful tool still. The reply ratio can be devastating, but you will get replies, and then things start to move, because when people start to react, then there's contact, even if it's a rejection, and you know that this is the contact detail that works also for the future, because you need to keep your list here for the future, also for your future work. So that's that. Email, it is the best thing still instead of social media. It really is, and I know that because of my podcasting. Emails work, but the problem, as I've been mentioning several times, is that if you send an email to the wrong place, or an info mail, if you have the actual email for the person you want to contact, then there is of course a much better chance that you'll get some sort of reply. I'm still doing this a lot, and there are still people where they don't reply. So it's maybe the reply rate is probably 50%, which is, it's not nice. If someone sends me an email, I reply to it, but that's just how it is within this world. Now, LinkedIn message, let's move on to that. As I mentioned earlier, it's something that I started using. Sometimes work, but as mentioned, it's not Messenger and WhatsApp. Many people, they still don't use it, or they don't have a clue if they have received a message. So many people, they don't reply to direct messages on LinkedIn. And finally, there's the bottleneck that you have to be connected to send a message. So if you're not connected to the person, unless you pay money to LinkedIn for a premium membership where you can send everybody a message. If you don't have that, then you have to be connected to send a message. And then if you connect to the person, if they don't accept it, then you're blocked. You cannot send in. So there's always the possibility when you try to connect with a person, you can put a note, you can put a message to connect it to the connection request. And then they will receive that message when they accept the request. But if they don't accept it, they don't receive the message. So this is tricky, but LinkedIn is part of the pool of tools that you have. So I use it. I use it whatever I can, but I use most phone number and email for sure. Yeah. That's getting in contact. Now, moving on to now we're almost done here. The last section here before the toughest challenge, your own data. So, in this section, this is about how you deal with your data. So it's important to collect all the data that you gather yourself in an overview. Now, when I started doing this many years ago, I was not very structured around it, so I lost a lot of information, and that's a pity. Because when you start to go out there and do the intelligence, there's so much information that you dig through, and gathering those data and putting them somewhere so you can get back to it to take advantage of all this intelligence work that you're doing. That's something that I find is very important, and has found more and more important as I've been moving on within this area. So I use Excel. And I take the key data, including project info, persons, organizations, contact. I put a login for the Excel sheet for the GDPR reasons, naturally. So that you need to make sure that you do. So if you put emails, phone numbers, and so on, make sure that you are compliant with GDPR, because especially for your organization, it can be quite expensive if anything comes out that you are not doing things correct with this. But that's it. Do the formalities, make sure you do it correct, and then keep the data properly. Yeah? But what you should also do, not only project persons, organizations, if you do copy paste also the project abstracts from Cordis, then you're in a very, very good place. And why is that? That's because not only is this going to be a database for you, but you also need to use AI. Yeah? you really need to use AI. I use it, and I can see how fantastic it is to use when you have to crack data. So with AI, you can also categorize the project information that you have gathered, and project information that you gather, a project information about the abstracts. That's public information. So there's no GDPR. So that you can perfectly well use in AI. So of course, everything that's related to emails, names, phone numbers, you cannot put into chat. No contact data. But if you want to find out and categorize information on projects, so all public information, project names, partner organizations, and abstract, this information you can put into the chat to help you onwards as you move on to search for not only likely coordinators, but also likely partners. You can map, and this is what I'm doing in my work here. I'm so lucky that I'm in an organization that is part of a joint undertaking, which means that we are developing the work program corner of Hydrogen Corner in the Horizon Europe. This means that we have the data of in Excel sheets partners, consortia from formerly funded projects. This is also public information. I just have it more structured because we are behind the program. Now, anyways, this means that when I'm working with upcoming calls, I can take information about public available information that is structured in an Excel sheet, with abstracts, with consortia, and who coordinate these things. I can put it into AI, and then I can say, here you have all these abstracts. Find me the ones that is related to this specific upcoming call, and then give me a mapping of who would be the most likely organizations to approach this call and coordinate it. That's also what you want to put there. Who is most likely to coordinate? That's going to help you. It's going to help you not only because you will get a more strong, not only do you have it in an Excel sheet, but if you have a lot of information, the more information you get, the better it is to be able to use and categorize, also because calls change. You will, as time moves on, new calls will come, and you don't know that specifically, maybe in details. So using this kind of information where you gather previously funded things and being able to categorize in your work to find specific partners, that's so valuable. I find it so valuable in the work that I do day to day to continuously also deepen the use of AI and how to cut corners in order to getting quicker past all this I've just explained you, because it's rough intelligence work. It takes a lot of time, and many of you don't have less time than I have to do these kind of things. So now, yeah, that's that. The grand toughest challenge. Well, toughest challenge, finding a coordinator. That's definitely the when you have to dig into the internet. When you keep running into walls, so you can't find the proper projects. Some projects can be difficult to find former equivalent projects on Cordis, so finding complementary projects with the right coordinators, or you can't find the phone numbers, you can't find the persons, you get the intelligence work overall of where you, in the periods where you really need to dig and dig and dig, that's the toughest part. When you find the organizations that have done it before or likely to do, then it's a matter of personal. Then it's a matter of if it suits them, if they would like to do it. And then, of course, you can run into frustrations that they say no, and the second one also say no, and you're moving towards the deadline, so you have a time pressure. But that's in another category. Finding the first in the first place, so which means that the proposal can move on, because that's what you're looking at. If you don't find a coordinator in time, then things are falling apart. So that is the toughest part, when you are struggling to find the right place. But I've just given you a good mapping of how you can approach that. Now, I really hope you appreciate this episode. I will gather more episodes. What I have here outlined on conceptually is on finding things, because finding things is, you look for things all the time. So I will have an episode on finding partners, which is complementary to what I've been doing here. And then I will have also an episode on finding proposals. But that's more to come. Some of them will have overlapping information because, as you can hear, some of the things from here is related to those things. But it's I will do this episode anyway, so they might be shorter than this. Now, thanks for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like what you're hearing here, go to my platform, thegrant.eu. There you'll find 190, 185 episodes on EU R&D funding. I've been doing this for 3 years, so there's a lot of information out there on the platform. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe to my email list. That's how you support me as an independent podcast. So thanks in advance for that. And finally, connect with me on LinkedIn, and do go and like my page, my LinkedIn page, The Grant, on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn and like my page. It's that, so then you will make sure that you get all the information you need, because that's where my flow is for communication, with promoting the episodes, with picking people up, also picking people up as guests for the show. So yeah, that's that. Thanks again, and see you in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You'll find the link to the episode site where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find a link to my personal LinkedIn site and a link to my timeline series on proposal preparation. Further, there are links to the Cordis and the Cinea databases that are referred to in the podcast episode. Next week, there's a very nice conversation with independent grants consultant Marie Proteau on the life as a proposal writer. You can indeed look forward to that.